Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Wonder Woman issue 760, part 2 of Mariko Tamaki's run on Wonder Woman. Is it any good? Let's rant and find out. This issue opens up with Wonder Woman telling Maxwell Lord that she does not require saving. She doesn't require his help. Maxwell Lord takes credit for saving her life because she's attacked by a bunch of prisoners. You'll recall last issue ended with Wonder Woman trying to prevent a prison break in a massive metahuman facility that houses a bunch of super criminals. One of those criminals it houses is, of course, Maxwell Lord, the most powerful psychic on the planet. Now, what makes that interesting is in the events leading up to that prison break, there's been a number of incidences that have taken place around the world where people have been hallucinating various things, and they've been hallucinating things which has adversely affected their behavior, and it's led to some loss of life and some chaos. Last issue involved Wonder Woman saving a woman's life who hallucinated and misconstrued reality and essentially drove a vehicle and would have been killed into a car accident if not for Wonder Woman's intervention. And here we are, Wonder Woman confronting Maxwell Lord, and Maxwell Lord telling her, look, I just saved your life, I'm a changed man. It's clear that Maxwell Lord is he's in the prison. Wonder Woman is a little surprised that he's there, and he makes some joke about, due to budget cuts, he's in that particular prison. Wonder Woman, this is where it gets very interesting. Wonder Woman has her magical lasso wrapped around Maxwell Lord, but for some odd reason doesn't seem to bother asking him any questions. She doesn't ask Maxwell Lord if he had anything to do with the event of the woman that she rescued in last issue hallucinating and getting into a car accident. Wonder Woman dumbfoundedly doesn't even bother to ask Maxwell Lord very common sense questions, namely, what are you up to, Lord? Tell me what you are up to. Tell me what your scheme is, Maxwell Lord. She doesn't ask him those questions. Why wouldn't she ask him those questions? She had her magic lasso wrapped around him. So that is a significant miss on the part of Mariko Tamaki here, and clearly that is a forced, whenever you force a character to be stupid and to not ask questions that are common sense, you know that you're doing that. This is clearly a forced way of trying to drive the story forward by having Wonder Woman do something really stupid. Because really the fastest way for Wonder Woman to know if Maxwell Lord is up to something, or if he's been using his powers to manipulate people anywhere on the planet, she could simply have asked him, but she chose not to do that, and I don't know why. Now, Maxwell Lord does say to Wonder Woman that, I'm not the man you knew, Diana. Things are different now. And he says to her, when you are ready to believe me, I'll be here. Well, he does say that to her, but he's not necessarily lying when he says that. But he didn't. Wonder Woman still never asked him the question, have you killed anybody? Have you used your mind control to manipulate events to kill anybody since you've been in prison? He could. That is still perfectly consistent with Maxwell Lord being a changed man. He could be changed in the way that he could arguably have gotten worse. And if he's gotten worse, he is still technically a changed man. So why Wonder Woman didn't confront him with actual questions to get to the bottom of things, I find really, really surprising. It would have saved Wonder Woman a lot of time and probably shortened this story by at least 2 or 3 issues. Who knows? In the long run, we'll have to find out. Now, Wonder Woman then talks to Ada Candy, and Ada Candy is the head. She runs the disaster relief headquarters for the United States, and Ada Candy runs basically a Google search, and they've been keeping an eye on events that have happened across the globe where people are seemingly getting in trouble or getting into disastrous accidents and claiming that they hallucinated the entire thing or that they didn't know what was going on. And it's clear that is something that has been happening. Ada Candy also reveals that they've been keeping a very close eye on Maxwell Lord, because Maxwell Lord is one of their top suspects whenever hallucinations or those types of possible events have been occurring. The first person they look to, the first meta villain they look to, super villain they look to, is Maxwell Lord, and they've done so. And And they reveal that Maxwell Lord has in fact been reading. He's just been in his prison cell, and all he's been doing is reading. And he's been reading a book called Infinite Jest. And so that's all he is. And Wonder Woman says in response to this that, I don't care what he's reading. I just want to, she doesn't care what he's reading. I just want to get to the bottom of this. And again, it's another stupid thing on Wonder Woman's part. Like, if think about it for a second. If Batman knew that the Joker was reading a book and was potentially a suspect in crime, and the Joker has been reading a book for the last 3 weeks in Arkham Asylum, do you think Batman would not want to know what that book is? And in this case, Ada Candy even tells Wonder Woman what the book is, and the book is called Infinite Jest. Now this is only mentioned in passing, and Wonder Woman says, I don't care what Maxwell Lord is reading. But she should care. Wonder Woman is supposed to have the wisdom of Athena, at least exercise a little bit of that wisdom. I realize you're not the world's greatest detective, Wonder Woman. Clearly, you are not that. You don't even want to ask questions when you have the opportunity to do so with your magic lasso wrapped around a potential suspect like Maxwell Lord. And now you know that he's reading a book called Infinite Jest. Are you not curious as to what that book is about? Because I certainly was, and I Googled it. I Wikipedia'd Infinite Jest. Now what Infinite Jest is a postmodernist novel that came out in 1996, and to oversimplify it, it involves 4 major plot lines that are all centered around a movie. There's a movie in the novel itself called Infinite Jest, and this movie is so addictive that people keep watching this movie, and this movie is also referred to as the entertainment. But this movie called Infinite Jest is so popular that it keeps being watched, and the people who watch it keep rewatching it until they die. And that's interesting. I think that says something about Maxwell Lord's state of mind. I think Maxwell Lord reading a book called Infinite Jest, I think it's clear that he thinks it's a joke. And it says something about perhaps what Mariko Tamaki thinks of Maxwell Lord, or how she sees Maxwell Lord in the eyes of this story. Does Maxwell Lord think of this as some big giant joke? That the world is addicted perhaps to entertainment. The world is addicted, and they're addicted and life, and that what the world sees is just one big movie that they're addicted to, as orchestrated through the director of Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord is manipulating events. Maxwell Lord can see himself as the director of events, causing people to hallucinate whatever he so desires. What he wants them to see, they see, and that he will continue to replay the same movie to them infinitely, and then laugh while doing so, Infinite Jest, and then ultimately, finally, they will die. Is that the play here? Is that the meanness and the subtlety, or the not so subtle way of Maxwell Lord's saying to Diana right out in the open that, screw you. You may have killed me, but I'm playing the ultimate joke, and I have the ultimate laugh, and I'm going to infinitely jest about it right in plain sight. Because there's one thing about Maxwell Lord, is that Maxwell Lord, you got to remember the history of Maxwell Lord. This is a guy that used to run and control and manage Justice League International. Now, he used to be considered a joke, but we now know, of course, because of the events of Infinite Crisis, that we know that, in fact, a lot was going on behind the scenes, and ultimately he became head of Checkmate, and ultimately he played a role in killing Blue Beetle and the events that led up to Infinite Crisis, and that he was, in fact, quite a cruel narcissist who insisted on being in control, but he always operated in plain sight. That was Maxwell Lord's power, is that everything he did right in front of you. And because he could control what you perceive, then he can pretty much do everything he is doing in plain sight, right out in the open, and that's exactly what he's doing. And so it's perfectly within Maxwell Lord's character and wheelhouse that he would very arrogantly and subtly read a book called Infinite Jest, almost as if he wants to be caught. He's planting some seeds, almost like he's challenging somebody to read between the lines of what he's doing. At least that's what I see it. How I see this. Now, maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but I think that book that Maxwell Lord is reading, I think it's very interesting, and I think that Mariko Tamaki is maybe challenging the readers a little bit. At least I hope so. That's what I'm getting out of it. And I hope that she's put some thought into that book. I just can't see that being a random thought on her part. It is a postmodernist book. It's a very popular book, I understand, postmodernist. It's right in Mariko Tamaki's wheelhouse, I think. And I'm not going to go into the plot of the book. I've not read it. You can just Wikipedia it yourself and to see what it's about. The issue ends with Wonder Woman having a hallucination herself and believing that she's attacked by parademons, and she discovers that she's not. She sort of wakes up out of her daze. Ada Candy sort of snaps her out of it, and she discovers that she's in fact destroyed and incapacitated a bunch of army men. And hopefully Wonder Woman hasn't killed any of those army men, but it's very obvious that Wonder Woman herself has now been the victim of an hallucination. Now, what's interesting about that is that in the past, Wonder Woman was the one superhero that at times was immune to the superpowers, immune to the hallucinatory powers of Maxwell Lord. And it was always understood, at least in some storylines, that she could resist the power of Maxwell Lord because of her connection to truth through the magic lasso. Now, it's interesting that if Wonder Woman is now a direct victim of an hallucination, or whoever is engaging in using this hallucinatory power, since it clearly can affect Diana, that raises the stakes on this story. And furthermore, if in fact Maxwell Lord is the one that is doing it, that raises Maxwell Lord's power level up quite a bit as well. I'm also going to indicate that the character known as Emma in this story puts together some furniture for Wonder Woman. They have a conversation, and she reveals that her parents were killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And there's something about the dialogue between Emma and Wonder Woman that I think that Emma is lying. We know from solicits that Emma will likely become the character known as Liar. And I have my theory is, and I might be wrong, but I suspect that somehow Emma's powers if she's a character named Liar, I'm not sure what her power set would be, but I'm assuming it would have something to do with lying. And this particular storyline, this particular issue is entitled, "What Have I Done?" And it refers to Wonder Woman having a hallucination and almost killing a bunch of army men. And going back to Liar, Emma, my theory is that Liar is being manipulated. Emma is being perhaps manipulated by Maxwell Lord, because I think that the concept of truth is something that's being played with here. Wonder Woman has a connection to the idea of truth through the magic lasso. Maxwell Lord creates lies and hallucinations. He creates illusions himself. So we've got a villain, Maxwell Lord, who creates illusions and can create falsities, and we got Wonder Woman with her connection to truth. And then we have the character known as Emma, who will likely be Liar. And I don't know what her power set is, but I theorize that her power might be that she can compel people to believe a falsity, and that even though and that she might be lying. And that's why I don't believe that her parents were killed by a drunk driver. That maybe, in fact, she is a character that has the ability to compel those she speaks to believe whatever she says, and they just believe it. And maybe, perhaps she doesn't have much control over that power. I don't know. But I suspect that I'm guessing that maybe in conjunction with Maxwell Lord, that eliminates Maxwell Lord's weakness of his nosebleeds. Because remember that Maxwell Lord has a nosebleed every time he compels somebody to do something. And when he compels somebody and imposes a hallucination on somebody, his nose bleeds when he mind controls people. And as a result of that, that limits his power. That's the flaw in Maxwell Lord's power. So when you think about it, if Maxwell Lord could overcome that flaw, if he could increase the power of his hallucinations, if he can increase the distance by which he can project his hallucinations and his illusion power, and if he could further prevent himself from having a nosebleed every time he does it, then he could be much more powerful. And I'm thinking that maybe there's a connection he has with Emma, Liar. Maybe Liar is connected to Maxwell Lord, and together they enhance each other's powers in some way, or more specifically, that Emma's power as Liar somehow enhances Maxwell Lord's power. Now, that's pure speculation on my part. Mariko Tamaki might be going in a completely different direction, and I may have wasted the last 5-10 minutes saying that, but that's my theory, and I think it's kind of fun, and I kind of hope I'm right a little bit because I think it's pretty cool, and I like to pat myself on the back once in a while, but we shall see. In any event, I enjoyed this storyline, guys. I'm enjoying it so far. First 2 issues in. It drags a little bit here. It's taken a while to develop this storyline. We're 2 issues in, but I still have patience. I'm still captivated by this story. I hope it goes somewhere. I know in speaking with guys on the Slack that at Weird Science, I know sometimes that I have read Marika Tamaki's Being Super. I thought it did drag. I thought it was a little boring. But this already 2 issues in, I'm more excited about this storyline. I think it's got potential. But I hope it doesn't drag on too much. I've heard some things about her She-Hulk line. She-Hulk issues dragging on. Her X-23 dragged on a bit. I'm told. I've not read that, the X-23. But I really like what I'm seeing so far from Marika Tamaki, and I love the art by Mikel Janin. He's doing a fantastic job. This is a visually stunning book. It's beautiful. So I would recommend checking it out. Guys, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think of reading this of this issue. Tell me what you think of my theory, if am I totally out to lunch. And Wikipedia Infinite Jest, see if you get any thematic or philosophical connections between the themes and the plot lines explored, the 4 major plot lines explored in that book that perhaps might give some insight as to where Marika Tamaki might go in this storyline, if at all. Because I do remember that Tom King would always give some literary references to some of his Batman, but I think Marika Tamaki does it in a more clever fashion here by simply having the villain read that particular book. So in any event, follow me on Twitter, guys. I'm Metropolis40. Hit the subscribe button. And until next time, Comic Boom, out.